All right, it is 12:30 on my clock, probably on yours as well. So in order to be respectful of everyone's time, I'm going to go ahead and jump right in. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Sara Mayer, and I am the founder and creator of Sara Mayer Consulting. And some people believe that I have more hours in the day than others. However, I don't. I have the same 24 hours in the day that everybody else has. And today I'm going to share with you some of my tips and tricks. But first, we're going to answer that question that nags in the back of some people's head. It's in my head as well. Are you busy or are you productive? So if you haven't already, please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. Would love to get to know you, what you do, where you're from, that type of thing. And today we will do some interactive parts of the program, so feel free to jump in. Alicia, who is my assistant, my helper, she is going to help me navigate those comments. And if you have any questions, I will take questions at the very end. So feel free to hang on to those and drop them in the chat at the end so we can easily find them. So let's dive in. If you have not already grabbed a notepad and a pen, I would suggest that you do that right away because I'm going to share with you a lot of knowledge today. Well, hopefully you'll want to write some stuff down. So the first question I ask often is, are you busy or productive? And busy people, they do a lot. Yeah, I said it. They do a lot. And you may have been there. You go to an event, maybe last year, you might have to go back in the archive to find that, where you ask somebody how they are and they say, busy. Or maybe that was you. Somebody asked you how you were and you said, busy. And a lot of us are busy. But what being busy really is, it's the chase for the feeling of accomplishment. It's the chase for feeling productive. And maybe you can relate. Have you ever spent an entire day catching up on email or doing things like checking your notifications on Facebook and Instagram and all that stuff? And at the end of the day, you're like, where did those 18 hours go? I was busy all day, but I hadn't really finished anything. Have anyone ever felt like that? Just me? Okay, it's all right. Just kidding. I know we've all been there. Or maybe you run around doing errands and at the end of the day, you get back to your computer and it's full of email, full of notifications, and you're like, I haven't done anything. Or for some people, myself included, I've been there. At the very end of the week, you're tired, you're exhausted, and you think back to your goals and you think, I didn't do anything for my goals this week. Well, I'm going to give you a little reality check. I think being busy is like a syndrome. It's kind of like being a procrastinator, but worse, because busy people get things done. So they appear to be productive. They appear not to be procrastinating, but they really are, because busy people are procrastinating on getting their goals accomplished. So let me say that again. Busy people are procrastinating on accomplishing their goals. Wow. For me, when I came to that conclusion, I was like, oh, wow, I need to really focus on my goals. So what's the biggest difference between a busy person and a productive person? And I know Russell already kind of asked that question in a different way, but let's talk about that. The difference between being busy and productive is a productive person moves the ball every single day closer to the goal. A productive person moves the ball every single day closer to the goal. They may take Saturday or Sunday off. Actually, I advise that. But the ball keeps moving forward towards the goal. And it's all about taking actions on goals, not just doing something. It's about taking action on goals. All right. So I'm going to ask you, what's the difference? There you go. So I'm going to ask you, are you busy or are you productive? There you go. I'm bad at moving the slides for some reason. Can't do 5 things at once, but are you busy or productive? So go ahead and drop that in the chat. Are you busy or are you productive? Oh, Russell, if I'm doing something I like to make it part of a goal, then you're probably productive, or I'm a couch potato. Okay, so it's kind of a toss between. Anyone else? Amanda, busy, sometimes productive. Okay. Up and down. Yeah. Some weeks I'm busy, and this week was a busy week. Some weeks I'm more productive. It's a teeter-totter, I think. Goodness, busy. Thought I was productive. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So busy people, I don't know. I've actually worked with some clients where they're like, oh, I wrote it down to check it off. Has anybody ever done that? Made a to-do list just to cross it off? Yeah. Sometimes busy people do that. And then Alicia says, busy, feeling buried most of the time. Great. Yeah. So write it down to check it off. That's a common thing that busy people do because they're like, well, at least at the end of the day, I accomplished something. Yeah. Great. So I'm going to share with you some tips on how to move from being busy to being productive. So first thing, you need to set and write down your goals. So many people have goals and they're in their head. They're like just here, but they're not at the forefront of their mind. They're not written down or they're not announced to the world. And I'm not saying you need to go on Facebook and do a Facebook Live every day and talk about your goals or anything like that. But you definitely need to have a goal and you need to write it down. Now, I'm going to tell you, I'm not really a big SMART goal person. And I'll tell you why. Because I think when people have a goal and it's a big goal and it's really important, when they start to put it in a SMART goal format, that negative energy comes in and they're like, ooh, it has to be relatable. Ooh, it has to be attainable. You know, the really big things, if you were to ask people, aren't attainable. Like, I want to go write a book, or I want to go impact millions of people. And then you get to that attainable or the realistic, you know, you're thinking, oh, is this realistic? No. And then what's really important to you goes aside because you're trying to cram your goal into a format. So I encourage everybody to have really big goals and write them down. And then what you need to do is break that into little chunks. What's the very next step? And that's when you're moving that ball forward every single day, every single week, and then you'll get closer to that huge goal. The other key with writing your goals down is you need to have a regular review of your goals. How many of us set a goal in New Year's? I've been guilty of this. And you set that goal and you're like, oh, I didn't do this last year. I didn't do that last year. I didn't do this. And so here's my New Year's resolutions. Guilty. I'm guilty of that. And those come from a place of negativity. I should have worked out more. I should have this. I should have that, rather than a place of inspiration and creativity. So when setting your goals, you want to come at it from a place of positivity and excitement. Write them down, and then you want to schedule regular review. So maybe every week. And it's not a beat up session. I didn't do anything towards my goals this week. I'm a bad human, because that doesn't get you excited. That doesn't motivate you. You want to say, okay, what did I accomplish this week towards my goals? Did life get in the way? And if it did, what do I need to do to reset? Because every week is a new week. Every day is a new day. And I see in here, Amanda said, I love writing things down. I think she was talking about her to-do list, but definitely do this for your goals. Many people who are busy have to-do lists galore, but they don't have goal lists. They don't have a list of goals with the steps that they're looking to accomplish. And so that kind of gets pushed to the back burner because the to-do list gets really long, the laundry, clean the kitchen, all this stuff. And that regular review brings those goals to life and renews that excitement. I always tell the funny story about one of my clients, which she has given me permission to share this story. where she had a really big goal. But one of the first 3 steps was really not fun. It was like a conversation she would have to have with a banker. And I don't know about you, but that doesn't sound exciting to me. It didn't sound exciting to her. So every week I would talk to her about, hey, did you go to the bank? Oh, no. And so then when we started talking about what she was doing each week, I noticed a pattern. Every week she was cleaning her oven. And so then I started thinking, and there were a lot of other things she was doing, but she was doing things to avoid what was really hard. So she was busy, but she wasn't productive. So I think it's really important to review your goals weekly, daily, monthly, and have a record of everything you've done towards your goals. It doesn't have to be crazy. Just maybe pop it in an Excel workbook or just Word doc would be fine. But as you start to accomplish things that are bigger toward your bigger goals, you will feel more accomplished. All right. So how do you do that? How do you move your goals forward every day? So here's some suggestions that I have for you. First, you want to focus daily on one thing that is goal related. And then once you are able to do that, then you want to increase it to at least 3 things. I don't suggest any more than 3. If you can do 4, that's great, but that would be the max, because sometimes what happens is people sit down for their day and they'll start to make a list of all the things they need to do for their goals. And they put like 25 things on there. And one of them's like build a website. I don't know about you, but you can't build a website in one day and feel good about it. Well, maybe you can if you're a website whiz, but most normal people can't do that. So pick one thing that is so important to your goals. And I highly suggest that's the first thing you do each day. So you come in, if you're going into work or if you're at home, you come in, you open up your laptop and you focus on that one thing that is goal related. Even if you can't get it all done in one day, you've at least moved the ball closer to your goals. And that also, for those of you who like to be busy, that gives you the high that you get from accomplishing something. It gives you the high that you're seeking from being busy. That's like a high. You're looking for that feeling of accomplishment. That will give that to you if you do that first thing in your day. Eventually, once you exercise that muscle, the goal achievement muscle, you'll be able to increase it to 3 things because you'll start to be able to do difficult things a little more quickly. So when you do get to 3 things, here's my suggestion for you. Do the first thing in the morning. Schedule some time, maybe midday when you are feeling creative or whatever your goals are around. Schedule some time midday to do that. And then schedule it last thing in your day. And people ask me about this all the time. Why the last thing in the day? If it's so important, why am I putting it last? Well, I'll tell you why. Because the reward for doing that last thing is you get to go home. So if you book it on your calendar for an hour and it only takes you 45 minutes, reward yourself and go home. But if you don't, then you're going to be at work later or you're going to be working into the night. So it gives yourself a mental goal and a mental deadline. And that's really what we need with goals. When we don't set a deadline for ourselves or break it down into steps, they just become this thing we want someday, and then the laundry takes over or the email takes over or whatever takes over, and we don't move forward with our goals every day. So once you get to the 3 things, what you'll find is that every day you're moving the goal forward. And when you really work on those things and no distractions, just those things, you will be accomplishing way more each week. The second way to accomplish our goals and keep our goals at the forefront is, in order to be productive, you need to master the art of productive working. I don't know about you, but when I was in high school, there was no class about how to work. It was like you graduate and then you just magically start working and people think you know how to work. I wish there was a class like that. But the first thing I recommend for being productive is you need to learn how to plan your day. And many times, busy people, even though they're busy, they're getting things done, their day is controlling them rather than them controlling the day. And so I just shared with you one way to plan your day, and that is to work on your goals first. So when you're planning your day, I think it's really important to remove some of the distractions. I don't know about you, I've been guilty of this, but as soon as I stopped doing this, I realized how much better my mindset was during the day. Anybody wake up and look at their phone? Anyone? Yeah? Start reading emails. So you're all positive, and then you look at this email and you're like, oh, and the day's gone. The whole day is ruined. My plan's out. So I suggest you remove those distractions. Don't check your email first thing in the morning. Don't roll over out of bed and look at your phone, because guess whose priorities are in those emails? One hint, not yours. Those are everybody else's priorities. And so then they become your priorities. So then you're running around doing whatever they needed in email. And here's a little tip. If it's truly an emergency and they send you an email, shame on them, but they really won't. They'll probably start with an email and then they'll figure out a way to get in touch with you. They'll call you, they'll text you, they'll email you, they'll come over to your house. If they're truly having an emergency, they will find you. So don't worry about that. A lot of people are like, well, if I don't check my email, there may be some emergency in there. Well, I don't know what to tell you. I had this funny story at work where somebody emailed me. I was in Arizona and they're like, we're stuck in the elevator in New Mexico. And I was in a meeting. So I come out and I'm like, well, I hope they got out of there. And I hope they called somebody else. And I hope they picked up the phone in the elevator. But emailing me was not the most effective way for them to get out of the elevator. So anyway, don't check your email first thing in the morning. You want to remove those distractions. When you are working on your goals, those 3 things, if you get up to 3, that's great. Some of the bigger ones may take you more days, so you might not be able to do 3 a day. You want to turn all that off. Turn off the Facebook notifications, turn off the email dinging, all that stuff. Because every time those things happen, it takes your mental focus away from whatever you're working on. And I highly suggest when you're working to consider what they call, some people call it batching, some people call it chunking. I highly suggest that. So what that means is you group like activities together and you work on them all at once. So I'm going to let you in a little secret if you didn't already know this. When people post on social media, they may not have just typed that up and sent it. A lot of people do their social media in batches. So they create content for their social media in a chunk. So they'll do all their social media content, or they'll record all their not live videos, but reels or whatever. That's one way when you're working on your goals to put things that are together so that you're able to focus on that and not be shifting your mind. You see, we really can't multitask. We can only shift our mind's focus back and forth. So we're basically working on 2 different things, not at the same time. You really can't work on 2 things at once. So when you're planning your day or your week or your month, what I like to do is look for like tasks. So if there's something where there's a lot of writing, even if it may be in different buckets, I put all the writing together. And then I'll put on my calendar 2 hours of writing. Or if I were looking for a job or something like that, I would put a couple blocks of time on my calendar where I'm filling out applications, and then a couple times where I'm actually searching, a couple times where I'm following up. And when you chunk that, then it puts your mind in the mode where, okay, today we're making phone calls to follow up. Today we're writing. Today we're doing this, rather than today we're writing, calling, doing the laundry, emailing, and this and that. That's very difficult to manage for your mind. So chunking or batching is a great way to work more productively, because the reality is you still need to do the laundry. I can't take that away. Or, I mean, you could maybe outsource it, but those household things are still going to be there. But when you intermix everything in your day, you actually become busy rather than productive. And at the end of the day, I don't know about you, but I feel exhausted when my mind is like done all these roller coaster rides. So chunking and batching is a great way to do that. And I encourage you at the beginning of each week to look at your to-do list and see if there's ways that you can chunk things together, so that way you're not in a constant flow of being torn back and forth. All right, I just shared a lot with you, so let's do a little quick recap. So here are the 3 best ways to become more productive rather than busy. So the first one is to set and write down your goals, as well as the steps that it'll take to accomplish those. And you don't need to know all the steps when you write down the goals. Just start with the top 3. That's it. The second one is to focus on one goal-related thing daily and then slowly increase to 3. I don't suggest you start off with 3 because you probably have all these other things that you need to handle. And if you start off with 3, it's going to be a little bit difficult. So you want to get that goal achievement muscle going and that process going. Start with 1, you'll feel way more accomplished, and eventually you'll be able to get to 3. Many people stop at 3, some people get to 4. I don't suggest any more than 4 for this reason. There's all this other stuff you have to do, so you can't always be working towards your big goals. You know, sometimes you got to do the laundry or pick up the kids or do stuff like that. And then the third one is mastering the art of productive working. And so that is all about planning your day, removing distractions, and chunking your work so it gives your brain the ability to do the work most productively, rather than that feeling of roller coaster. I'm all over the place and I did a lot, but I didn't accomplish anything. So easy, right? Yeah, not so much. So many people ask me, okay, I get it. I want to do this, but where do I start? So you just start. Just kidding. I love this photo that says just start. It's really not that easy, because first, you really need to determine what's getting in your way, what's stopping you from becoming productive. And I suggest you start by taking a week, one whole week, where you take stock in what's going on in your week. So that could be writing down each day what you set out to do and then what you actually accomplished. Or it could be just, at the end of the day, journaling of how you felt from the day. Or if you're feeling overwhelmed, I noticed there was some overwhelm in the chat, seeing, what parts of the day you felt overwhelmed or why you felt overwhelmed or anything like that. So take a full week of really looking at where you're at and what is getting in your way. So here are a couple of things that may be getting in your way. And after a week, you'll be able to identify them. So the first one, your goals may not be very clear. So you may have some idea of a goal, or some people just don't have a goal. They're like, I don't have goals. I just live in life, and that's okay. But that leads to not feeling productive as well. So make sure you have clear goals. A great way to find out if you have clear goals, if you have somebody like a spouse or a kid, ask them, what do you think my goals are? And if they can't answer that question, they're probably not very clear, or it's not clear to others when you're working on your goals or not, or whether what's important to you. I had a client who asked her husband this, and he came up with some weird goal. And she's like, you do know I'm launching a business right now. And his quote was, is that what you're doing in your office? So there was a disconnect of what she's putting out into the world and what she really thinks is her goal. And that was because she was letting everything else get in the way And when she was able to make it really clear, I'm launching my business, guess what changed in their relationship? He was more supportive, but he also stopped interrupting her work to do kind of silly things like find things in the house. But she hadn't put it out there. And because of that, it was not clear. It was not put out in the world. And I'm not saying you have to tell 50,000 people on Facebook, but the people in your life that are close to you should know what those goals are because they'll be obvious from your interactions. So maybe ask somebody else, what do you think my goals are this week? The other thing that's getting in the way is the goal is really clear, but the work is not incorporated into daily life. So maybe the goal is to write a book, but every day you're not writing, or every day you're thinking about it, but there's not action around it. So that's really important. So as you're looking at your week, take a look at your schedule and see, is my goal scheduled into my daily life? And you can take Saturday, Sunday off. The next one is distractions. I don't know about you, but Facebook notifications, Instagram notifications, if you're on Clubhouse, if you're wherever, those distractions and email, the constant dinging of the phone, those are all things that if you're really trying to accomplish your goals, you got to take those down. You either need to remove the notifications. Like I don't get notifications on my phone. The day I did that, that was like the best day of my life because that's pushing content in front of you and it's taking you away from those things. So distractions are a big key. And you might find that you have a lot of distractions in your life, especially when you're trying to work. I'll tell a little short story. I always love this is I worked in an environment where when I first started, my boss was like, we have an open door policy here. And I said, okay, what does that mean? And he's like, well, we have our doors open all the time. And I kind of challenged him. And I said, okay, so if you're working on something really important, do people interrupt you? He's like, constantly. And I said, okay, well, I have an open meeting policy and an open emergency policy. I'm always available if somebody's truly having an emergency. But when I'm working, I'm going to close my door to signify that I'm working on something really important. And I'll even put a sign up. Can we work on that? Can we live with that here? He's like, yeah, let's try it. Well, as we did that, more and more people were like, thank you for doing that. Because I can't tell you how many times that one person pops in my office and sits down and just starts eating lunch and I'm working on something. So I think sometimes those distractions can be people and they don't realize they're doing that. I had a client who, when they first started working at home, her husband had always worked at home and she had not. And she said, did you know my husband interrupted me 40 times in one day? Every single time he got off a call, he popped into my office. And she hadn't even thought about that before. But when she added up the time that he's spending 2 to 3 minutes, she's like, I lost like half my day. But he didn't even realize he was being a distraction. He was just like hanging out. So take a look at that for a week. The other one is other people's priorities. I already mentioned this, but oftentimes what's in your email is somebody else's priority. It's not your priority. Yet you may drop everything to help them. And especially when you want to feel needed or wanted, that's one thing that happens is that we tend to drop our priorities because they're hard. The goals, we have to really think about it, but I can easily solve her problem. And sometimes that enables people. Now, this is unavoidable. I mean, obviously, if you have a kid and they need to eat, like you can't just say, sorry, that's your priority. Good luck, but think about this when you're looking at your day and really analyzing what's getting in the way from you being productive. The next one is too many things on the list. You cannot accomplish 50 things in a day. You cannot. You will drive yourself nuts when you set out your day and you're like, oh, I'm going to do 50 things today. It's not possible. Like 3 things towards your goal, maybe, plus like 4 or 5 other things. That's doable. We set ourselves up for success when we limit the number of things that we put on the to-do list per day. I have a very comprehensive to-do list, and I have one list, and it's all sorted out. I use electronic, but it's all sorted out. And I have one list that's called Someday Maybe. And I will tell you, when I put things on that list, I truly am like, yes, someday I want to plant a bunch of citrus trees in my backyard. And so I have like tags to which ones I want. I did a bunch of research. I was very excited about this. It wasn't a big goal, but it's something I want to do. I put it on the Someday Maybe list, and it's still there. Whenever I want to look at it, I go to that list. And so it's captured, but it's not something that sits on my daily list where every day I'm thinking about these citrus trees. And I think it's really important that you have a way to capture all those things you want to do, because what happens is we forget, and then we're like, oh, I forgot about that. And so we're afraid we're going to forget. So we keep them on this long running list. And when we look at a long list in one format, we get into that mindset of, I'm not doing enough, or I'm not productive, or I didn't accomplish as much. And we've set ourselves up really for failure. So, 5 things maybe in a day. One of them probably is to handle your email. And that's the next thing. What gets in the way? Usually email. If you don't have a way to process and handle your email can become your life. And that is unfortunate, because email is never ending. It will never end. There will always be more emails. I mean, especially, I love Bed Bath & Beyond, but they will continue to send you emails. So you need a way to process and handle your email. And I'm going to say this, and this is like revolutionary to some people. Email is not intended to be a to-do list. Email is a communication tool. So email is not intended to be your to-do list. So if you are using your email to remember what you need to do, I would encourage you to shift that out. Take your email and put it on the to-do list or move it somewhere else, but it's really not intended to be used in that way. And it's not effective as a to-do list. So this week, take a look at what's in your email. How many emails are you getting a day? How much time are you spending on email? Are you opening it and then not responding and forgetting about it? How are you processing email? And if you don't have an efficient system for handling and processing email so that it's in, logged, handled, and out, that may be where you want to start. And then the next one is having a commitment to productive work. So that's all about setting yourself up for success and really making that commitment each week to say, this week I'm going to be productive, not busy, and I'm going to handle all the things that I can handle. So after a week, you're going to really know what your pain points are. What are the things that are getting in the way, or your go-tos? Remember the lady who's cleaning her oven? I don't know anybody who needs to clean their oven every week. I mean, unless you're doing a lot of crazy cooking, but she was doing that to feel productive and feel accomplished. But all she was doing was making herself busy, and everything that she really wanted was getting further and further away. So after a week, you really can figure out what your pain points are. And then the good news is you can be productive and you can recover from what I call busy syndrome. I don't even know if that's a thing, but I'm going to make it a thing. And you can become more productive. And productive leaders are making their dreams a reality, and they're making it happen. And those changes are not only in their lives, they're in the lives around them as well. So if you find after a week where you're like, oh, I need to address these things, set those as one of your goals that you're going to work towards and make that a priority in your week. That's a great first step for kind of getting your goal muscle going, where you're making progress every day. You're moving the ball forward every day. You can't just flip a switch and say, well, yesterday I was busy. Today I'm productive. That's just not how it works. It's definitely something you have to set as a habit. It's a goal muscle. You have to exercise it. But a great way to start is by using the same process of how to work on how to address some of the things that are getting in your way. All right, I just dropped a bunch of information. So now I'm very excited to take any questions you may have. Anyone have any questions in the chat? Oh, I see a good book. Yes, Russell, the David Allen book is really good. Yep, great book.
Hi, Sarah. It's Alicia. I wanted to ask, you mentioned use digital capture tools for your to-do list. Would you mind sharing what tool or tools you recommend?
Yes. So I think the biggest thing is you need to pick what works for you. That's very important for everyone. Some people use paper planners. I am a big fan of paper planners. I use Asana, and I'll put that in the chat because that's kind of a weird word. Right there. I use Asana for my daily life goal setting and then to-dos. And then if I have like a really big project, I'll use Trello. I think that's like that. And Trello is a great way, like a project manager. Asana can do that too, but I think you have to pay for that. So personally, I love Asana. It's a to-do list tracker. You can share it with people. So I have clients who share it with their husband or share it with their kids or whatever. But one of the things that I don't advise is having it all in your head. So you have to take it and get it out of your head because you will miss things. So those are two really good ones.
Thank you.
And then I see in here, Paul, the dreaded pop-in. I don't miss working in a cubicle. Yes, you know, when he mentioned the open door policy, and I think that's like a statement a lot of people use, like we have an open door policy. That sounds great until somebody sits down and opens their lunch at your desk and you're trying to work on a spreadsheet. Or the other thing I learned in one of my offices is I was en route to the bathroom. And so because my office was en route to the bathroom, people would in the back send me an email and then they're going on break. They'd walk by my office. Did you get my email? When did you send it? Like a minute ago. No. And then they go to the bathroom, they come back. So did you see my email? It's like, whoa, you know, I'm working. So, I mean, you have to do it in a positive way, but sometimes the culture of the office, but now it's not the pop-in because a lot of people are still working from home. It's the text messages, it's the device pop-ins that are causing issues. Cool. Other questions or comments or takeaways? I love to hear takeaways.
For me, I really liked how you talked about determining what's getting in the way. So identifying those obstacles that are stopping us from staying focused or achieving those goals. And I can especially relate to the example you shared of your friend or client whose husband was continually interrupting them. My husband is a sharer and loves to share every little bit. And sometimes I'm like, I love you, but let's talk later.
Yeah. Yeah. And she didn't even realize it. And he had never had anybody at home. And so she was like, what did you do before me? And he was like, oh, I'd play with the dogs. And the poor dog is probably like, they had multiple dogs, but the poor dogs were like, what happened? We used to get played with and now he's over there chit-chatting. So I think it's just really important to kind of take stock and just see what is going on because sometimes those are things that just evolve over time and you don't realize that they've kind of become a habit or anything like that. All right, other questions? I finished quicker. Last time I had a lot of questions or comments, so I saved a lot of room for questions. Oh, there's a survey. I like using Trello as well, Amanda. Yes, Trello is life-saving. And I think the one thing is it takes it out of your head and it's a great organizer. Both of those, I use both. some of my clients use Trello, so that's why I use Trello for some things. But some people use Basecamp for their goals as well. I think there's a cost to that. So if you're managing a lot of team members, that might be something to consider as well. But I thought it was genius when my client was like, I share my Asana board with my kids. She has teenagers, and then they could see how busy, like how much stuff she had to do and what was important to her, her goals. So when they were asking for things like last minute, they had access to see that. And then she was also able to assign them tasks and stuff like that. So I thought that was a pretty cool way as well to give them tasks and chores and stuff like that. So super cool.
And a great way to help them establish that structure so they can be successful in life, giving them that insight. That's awesome.
Yeah, and then there's a really cool feature in Asana when you check something off, like a unicorn flies across the screen or confetti falls down. There's all these different things, but it really is that feeling of accomplishment. The one thing I would make sure your goals are in there, because sometimes people have these Asana boards and it has like, do the laundry, water the grass, whatever they have in there. But then the most important thing I'll ask them about is, where are your goals? Where are the steps for that? And they're like, oh, that's in my head. Or, oh, it's not in there. So that's an easy way where a tool can keep you away from your goals as well. Other questions? Great. Well, seeing no more questions, I will actually give you some time back. So you definitely can do it. You can move from busy to productive. And just remember that every day is a new day to hit reset. So you may have days or weeks. I mentioned my week this week has been a busy week, not very productive, but I knew that was going to happen based on what was on my plate. But every week is a new opportunity to reset. Every day is a new opportunity to reset. You can connect with me. I'm always happy to help. And I do share some resources. If you were on early, you heard Alicia tell you about one of my podcasts. I have some podcasts as well that I've been on where I love to share tips. And I also love to hear what's working for you. So if you find some tip or trick from going from being busy to productive, please feel free to share. I always love to add more tools to my toolkit, but also help other people celebrate their success, because that's what's really important. When you move from being busy to productive, you are more successful at achieving your goals. And when you're more successful at achieving your goals, you feel better and you feel like you have more of a purpose and you're achieving your goals, which is awesome. So thank you everyone for this afternoon, this evening, wherever you're joining us from or watching from. It's really been my pleasure to speak with you today. And I will hang around for a little bit for questions, but if not, I will give you some time back. Thank you so much.